3 years. 3 years after Halo Combat Evolved took the world by storm, a new game from the series would have the biggest media launch up to that point. It was simply titled
Halo 2.
Halo 2.
Halo 2. Hundreds of grown men and probably about 3 women have crawled out of their parents' basements tonight to be first in line to buy the new video game Halo 2.
Well, if Halo is so good, why isn't there a Halo 2?
You probably shouldn't
make jokes
anymore.
Oh look, one of the greatest sequels of all time. Halo 2. How do you follow up to a revolutionary masterpiece? Most creators fail to live up to that great product they released first, but sometimes, just sometimes, they make something that is even more loved than its predecessor. Hopefully I can do this with the second episode of Halo vs. the World. We're really looking at every main entry in the Halo series in release order, finding out about its production, discussing the product, and finding out if it still holds up today. Let's get started. Hot off the heels of the success of Halo Combat Evolved, the team at Bungie had enough room for all the unfulfilled ambition from the development stages of their last game. They had more than just a single game on their hands. They had a potential franchise. The team was wanting to make something that would be Combat Evolved, but bigger, better, and more. Due to blind ambition on Bungie's part, Halo 2 was in crunch development from the very start. We just plowed ahead, much like we had done with Halo, with one notable exception. We ordered ourselves a giant sandwich, took a bite, but didn't realize exactly how big it was before we started in. And we did that across the board, technically, artistically, and story-wise. But of course, we didn't figure that out until way too late. Joseph Staten. One idea that managed to fight through this again rushed development was dual wielding. And destructible vehicles as well. Well, let's just throw in online multiplayer, finally. An important one, as we'll see later. All these made it in despite the high-pressure development cycle surrounding the game. But again, the most ambitious of all was indeed the story, which was going to originally include a betrayal plot involving Miranda Keyes, the daughter of Captain Keyes, betraying the Chief in some dramatic way. According to Joseph Staten, Jason Jones was going through a pretty difficult breakup, and so he may have thrown this idea into the draft because of it. Well, let's just all be grateful this didn't make it into the final product.
I'm still scared shitless right now, to be honest with you.
Problem is, the bug I have is...
The difference between good enough and awesome is so big, and I mean, there's standards set by everyone here that, I mean, good enough sucks.
Like I've mentioned before, the development cycle was riddled with just a bit too much blind ambition, which ended up being a curse to the project and a project that was being developed by another team in the studio. Phoenix was to be a fantasy-themed strategy RPG with a blocky, Minecraft-like art style. By the time release was just around the corner, they had to cut quite a bit of content in order to get the game to ship. Notably, they had to cut a large chunk of the story out and a lot of features for multiplayer. At least they were able to get online multiplayer to work this time around. We can be grateful for that.
I gotta stop you. Sorry.
So we're going to show you Halo 2 today. This is a... I'm actually going to be playing it as best I can. But before we start, I just need to go over some safety regulations in case of fire or electrical storm or earthquake or something like that. Just be sure that you guys are safe.
Know it, son! These folks didn't wait in line to hear your lips flippity-flap. Knuckle up and get ready to dance, you pasty bastard!
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
What you good people are about to see is an operation in progress. This is a real-time feed. No smoke and mirrors pre-recorded bullshit.
The 2003 E3 presentation was extremely successful at driving up the hype, but the demo ran horribly in most circumstances and had to be heavily scripted for it to even work. After the presentation, they ended up scrapping a lot of the work done on the demo and starting from scratch in a new graphics engine, making the crunch for the last year all the more intense. The marketing for the game was a very expensive yet rewarding venture for Bungie and Microsoft. Notably, Halo 2 was the first video game to have a big Times Square event for its launch.
Why would you reveal something like that? People are going to be pissed about that.
What the are you talking about?
Setting a trend for blockbuster games in the years to come. All over, people gathered outside game stores, waiting for the time to change to midnight so that these poor retail employees could finally sell the game. It sold 2.4 million units the first day, reaching $125 million just in the first 24 hours alone. In 2004, those weren't just big numbers. Those were downright record-breaking numbers.
A new record!
The success was rousing. Halo 2 stands as the original Xbox's best-selling game, at 8.46 million copies sold by 2008, and by 2007 was the 5th best-selling game in all the US at 6.3 million units. Yeah, that makes its last recorded year in sales worldwide a staggering 2.1 million units sold.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Halo 2 shines in a lot of ways and it stumbles in a lot of other ways. While the game itself is a good time for some classic Halo and a great choice for a genuine 2000s multiplayer experience, its rushed development resulted in a whole host of bugs, balancing, and difficulty issues. As an example, playing this game on Legendary is basically asking for... Wait, I already wrote the script. One sec. Ah, there it is. Okay. In Halo 2, you take on the role of the Master Chief. This time he's got a slick new suit, dies a ton, and can use 2 guns. But wait, there's more. You also take on the role of the Arbiter, a disgraced Sangheili sent on a suicide mission in order to find redemption. The game is far more punishingly difficult than Halo Combat Evolved, and sometimes unfairly so. Where we get faster shields, our health is also gone, meaning many things are a one-shot kill, where Combat Evolved sometimes gave you the opportunity to bounce back from a fatal mistake. This made playing the game on Legendary near impossible, and on Heroic just cartoonishly hard, which generally spoiled the experience along with a lot of the bugginess of the game. However, with new features and weapons, the open-endedness of the first game is extended even further. While dual-wielding might ultimately be useless in certain situations, in others, it's just a blast. Along with this, I found weapons in the game to be a lot more versatile, and ended up not just picking a favorite 3 weapons like I did in Halo Combat Evolved. Instead, I was usually picking up and trying everything I could find, and having a great time doing so. But where Halo 2 as a single-player game really shines is its brilliant story. Just as a quick side note, I'm not going to recap the whole story like I did last time, but there will be spoilers, so skip to this time if you don't want any spoilers. This game's story is one of the first video game stories I remember that had heavy-hitting themes while being something that wasn't a JRPG. Here, the name of the game is Disillusionment. While Master Chief's story is your average, save the universe, John, we don't want to die, John, 117, get your gun, I need a weapon. It's juxtaposed with the Arbiter's story, a story of someone feeling like he has failed and lost his salvation and is willing to die for a people who have fully rejected him. But suddenly he is shown that what he believed for so long was so far from the truth.
But you will find no salvation on this ring. Those who built this place knew what they wrought. Do not mistake their intent, or all will perish as they did before.
And sadly realized this after it was too late, and a genocide of his people had suddenly begun. Creating a schism within the Covenant that would send ripples throughout the series. One of my favorite scenes in the game is when you're playing as the Chief, seeing the elites and brutes slaughter each other in high charity. Over the loudspeakers you just hear the Prophet, the leader of the Covenant, boast about how unified the Covenant are.
Creatures of the Covenant, the path is broad and we shall walk it side by side. The parasite did not defeat the Forerunners, and it shall not defeat us.
It's a perfect example of show what's going on without having some stupid NPC tell you what's happening. I mean, story beats before already tell you that the Covenant have cast aside the Sangheili, these guys, but what this shows communicates so much more. It communicates that this has sparked a civil war. It also communicates that even in the midst of a literal civil war, the leaders of the Covenant are only interested in maintaining their hold on the minds of their followers. It tells you everything you need to know about the game's antagonizing force in less than a minute of gameplay. Anyways, that's about it for that. Now onto some problems I have with the single player. Like I said, the game is just way too difficult. There's a reason it took me like 5 ever to make this video, and it's those flippin' jackal snipers. They seem to have pinpoint accuracy.
Yeah, so sometimes the unfair difficulty can really sour the experience, and it's got like a ton of bugs, but to be completely fair to Bungie, it was a very, very rushed game. And I have to still ask myself, did I have a lot of fun with it? And yeah, I had tons of fun with the campaign. Despite the difficulty and the bugginess, I played through the entire game on Heroic and had a great time. I don't dare touch it on Legendary. Not yet, at least. The multiplayer of this game was extremely influential and has taken the hearts of a lot of people, but I must say I still prefer Halo Combat Evolved. Halo 2's multiplayer has a lot of things going for it, and maybe that's why it's hard to have fun when you die so flipping fast, but I feel like there's a better opportunity for good plays in other FPS games in general and other Halo games as well. Meanwhile, I must comment on the remake. Halo 2 Anniversary is probably my favorite multiplayer FPS experience. And everything is just a bit better balanced against the original's BR dominance in the multiplayer space. Generally, Halo 2 is a fun but still rather flawed game. I generally find this title weaker than Halo Combat Evolved, but still very good. I think I'd give this a "Thanks Bungie, very cool" out of 10. They did it again, ladies and gentlemen. With the expansion of Halo as a franchise, as did its influence on storytelling in games start to really blossom after this particular era, and I can't help but think the success of Halo 2 had something to do with it. On top of which, online multiplayer, while this was something that existed since PCs could connect to networks, the online multiplayer experience of consoles was not really clearly defined until Halo 2 hit the scene. The whole works, lobby rage, calling opponents slurs, trolling, it all really began with Halo 2's robust matchmaking server fighting system. And we really wouldn't have it any other way, would we?
You have Uno, you
On top of this, we had an expansion of Machinima with the new game coming out and a continuation of some popular shows and some new videos that really began to kill it.
Killable bastard.
The game was also ported to this war crime and still works to this day due to the hard work of modders, and those servers are still active on top of syslink tunneling services on the original, and of course, the Master Chief Collection. While it does not have the expansive mod support of Custom Edition, it still has a sense of new life being playable on PC in 2020, and again, I'd still recommend picking this one up and trying it out.